Hey there, Algebra 1 students. In this video, we're going to talk about 5.5 standard form. By the end of the video, you're going to be able to graph linear equations using intercepts and write linear equations in standard form. So key takeaway from this video, the standard form of a linear equation of a non-vertical line is ax plus by equals c. You're going to want to write that formula down, where a, b, and c are going to be real numbers, and a and b, right? A and b will not both be 0. One can be 0, but not both of them. So let's look at an example, finding the x and y intercepts. Now remember, you have your coordinate grid here. This is your x, this is your y. When we talk about x and y intercepts, we're just talking about the point where it will cross. So let's just say the x, this would be our x-intercept. So if we have a point on the x-intercept, that'll be your x-intercept. I should say on your x-axis. Likewise, if you have a point on the y-axis, that will be the y-intercept. Okay, it will be directly on that line. Now the nice thing about linear equations, you're only going to have one x and one y intercept. Okay, so how do we find the x and the y intercept given the standard form? So I'm going to write down our oh my goodness, I can't talk today. I'm going to write down these equations. So what I want to do, I'm going to figure out my x. I'm going to say what's my x, and this is going to be my y. My x is equals my y equals. Well, how do we do that? If you're saying x equals, this means we don't know what x is, but if we want to figure out what the intercept is, we have to make our y 0. That's just the only way you can do it. So we're going to plug in 0 for the y, and that'll give us our x value. We can just solve for x. So you can see all I'm doing is isolating that x. So x equals 8. This means when x is 8, y is 0. Okay? Now let's solve for y. Likewise, if y is unknown, this means x is going to be 0. Okay, so we're going to plug in 0 for x. That'll give us our y value. Okay, this basically goes away. I'm just not going to write it. So we're left with 4y equals 24. We're going to divide both sides by 4. Y equals 6. So when x is 0, y is 6. Okay, let's look at another example. I'm going to write it down again. So we have 5x minus 6y equals 60. And then we're over here. Okay, I'm going to figure out my x-intercept is here, and I'm going to figure out my y over here. So to figure out my x-intercept, I'm going to have to 0 out my y. So I don't know what the x is going to be. So I'm going to plug in 0 for my y. Right, that goes away. So 5x equals 60. Divide that by 5. X equals 12. Okay, so when y is 0, x is 12. Okay, so there's your x-intercept. Now the y-intercept, again, so we're going to make x 0 this time, and we're not sure what y will be. So let's go ahead and plug in 0 for x and solve for y. This will go away, so we have negative 6, y equals negative 10. Here we go. So when x is 0, y is negative 10. So our y-intercept will be negative 10. There we go. That's it. And now you can see, all you need to do is just graph these on a coordinate grid like we're going to do here, which is so much easier than having to graph the y-intercept and then apply a slope. All right, so what is the graph of x minus 2y equals negative 2? Oops, let's revise that equals. Okay, so to do this, you still need to know your x coordinate, and you're going to need to know your y coordinate, or I keep saying coordinate, your y-intercept. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to solve for x, and they're going to solve for y. So to solve for x, you're going to have to make y 0. So let's just plug in 0 for y and then solve. So your x-intercept in this case is -2. That means that when x is -2, y will be 0. So let's go to the graph and do that. So we're going to go to -2, which is 1, 2, and then we're going to put our dot there. Okay, there's our first coordinate. Now let's solve for the y-intercept. So we're going to make x 0. So then that leaves us with just the y. Got to divide that by -2. Y equals just 1. Okay, so this means that when x is 0, y is 1. Let's go ahead and graph that. So we're going to go to 0 and then up 1. And there we go. Okay, let's look at another example. So we have 2x plus 5y equals 20. This is, you can see it's kind of getting repetitive. All you need to do is just figure out what your x-intercept is and your y-intercept, and then graph it. So I'm going to set these both up. One's going to be for x, and then one will be for y. So when I'm solving for x, it means I'm going to have to get rid of my y. You can even, honestly, if you're writing this on a whiteboard, just erase the y. So then you have 2x equals 20. X equals 10. So x is 10, y is 0. Okay, I'm going to go to my graph. I'm going to go to 10, which will be this way. So this looks like you might not be able to fit it, so I'm going to go probably 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There we go. 10, 0. There's one coordinate. All right. Again, so this one we're going to solve for the y. If we're solving for the y, can't we just like erase the x? Because we're just going to zero it out anyway. So now you have 5y equals 20. You're going to divide that by 5 on both sides. Y equals 4. So when x is 0, y is 4. All right, now let's go ahead and graph that. I'm going to go to 0 and then up 4. 1, oh, I should do this in twos. 2, 4. We'll just, yeah. Just pay attention to your graphs in Math Excel. Okay, graphing horizontal and vertical lines. X equals 3 and y equals 3. X equals 3. That means that for every single coordinate, it's always going to start with 3, but we don't know what y will be. Okay, so we're just going to do, lost my pen here, question mark. It's always going to be 3. Well, we know that the x-intercept will be 3, 0. But could y be anything? Y can be anything. So we can make this a 1. We can make it a 2. We can make it a 3. We can even go in the negative direction, 3, -1. As long as x is always 3. So let's go ahead and graph that. So let's go to 3, 1, 2, 3, 0. Let's go 3, -1, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3, and so on. You can see the pattern. We have a vertical line. Same thing with the y equals 3. Instead of x being known, we know that the y is 3. So can't x be any value? And yes, it can. So we can make this a -1, 0, 1, and 2, and so on. So let's go ahead and graph that. So we're going to go to 0, up 3, and then we're going to go 1, 3, 2, 3, and then -1, 3. Okay, and there's your y equals 3. All right. One last thing, transform to standard form. So we're going to look at an equation that's written in these, it looks like right here we have the